Hey, my name's Laura. I have type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and it happens when your immune system attacks the cells that produce insulin in your pancreas. Insulin is needed to store glucose from your food in cells in your body, so without insulin you have really high blood sugar. Because my body doesn't make any insulin itself, I have to inject myself with insulin multiple times per day, and I also have to very closely monitor my blood sugar. To monitor my blood sugar, I use the FreeStyle Libre sensor. So it's a little sensor that's inserted into the back of my arm. I've been using the FreeStyle Libre for over a year. I got the first sensor a day after I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so I've actually only ever gone one day without using this device, which is kind of crazy to me. It measures the amount of glucose in interstitial fluid, which is the fluid between fat cells. The concentration of glucose in your interstitial fluid can lag behind the concentration of glucose in your blood by about 15 minutes. So when your blood sugar is changing rapidly, it can take a few minutes for the sensor to catch up with an accurate reading. To get a reading from my sensor, I scan using the FreeStyle Libre reader. So you click the button, it says check your glucose. And I just scan and it tells me my blood sugar. Along with my blood sugar, it has an arrow, so right now it's flat, meaning my blood sugar is steady. It can also read straight up, kind of trending upwards, trending downwards, and going straight down really rapidly. And I can use that information to catch or prevent a high or low before it happens. The sensor itself stores 8 hours of data, so if you go more than 8 hours between scanning your sensor, you're going to lose a little bit of data. So the minimum number of times you would have to scan a day is 3 times to capture a full 24 hours worth of data. I scan way more than 3 times, so I scan, I think, close to 40 is my average. So I like to get readings before and after meals, when I'm out exercising, before bed. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I like to scan again. So I think it's really amazing because I could never do that many finger sticks. The sensor definitely allows me to keep a really close eye on my blood sugar, which I like because it gives me peace of mind that, you know, my blood sugar is in range. So I find that the first 24 hours of the sensor, it can be a little bit inaccurate. More often than not, I find it reads lower than higher than my actual blood glucose readings. To overcome this, I usually insert my sensor 24 hours before I want to activate it, and then I find that first day of my sensor, while it's a little bit inaccurate, is a lot better than if I inserted it and started it right away. I think the FreeStyle Libre is really accurate because my predicted A1C and my actual A1C are usually very, very close. I've had my A1C checked 3 times in the last year since I've been diagnosed. One of those times my A1C and my predicted A1C was exactly the same, and then the other 2 times my predicted A1C was about 0.2% lower than my actual A1C, which was really, really close. So I find this system very accurate and very reliable. The FreeStyle Libre, because it's on the back of your arm, is a bit susceptible to compression lows. When it's compressed, the readings from your sensor can read lower than what your blood sugar actually is. So I find when I'm lying down sleeping or lying down on the couch and the back of my arm is pressed down, I'm more susceptible to get these compression lows, but whenever I sit up or I roll over, the compression low goes away. So it's not an actual low blood sugar, it's the sensor reading low. So I always confirm with a finger stick before I treat a low, even though I wear this sensor. There might be times where I don't have my lancet with me or test strips, and in those situations I'll just treat my low without checking. But if I'm at home and I have my lancet and test strips available, I always double check with a finger stick before I treat a low, just in case it's a false low. I don't want to be treating and then go high later. So this is the packaging that the FreeStyle Libre comes in. So inside of that box there are 2 alcohol wipes, the sensor applicator, and then the sensor itself. The first thing I do is clean my arm where I'm going to insert the sensor using the alcohol wipe. Using the skin tack, I draw a circle where the sensor is going to be applied, and I leave a space for where the filament will be inserted. I open up the sensor pack, and then I open up the sensor applicator. Next, you need to insert the sensor into the applicator. So you line up the 2 gray lines and press the applicator into the sensor. You can do this using your hands, or you can use a table to press down on. Then I line up the applicator to make sure the needle is going to be inserted in that circle of no skin tack. So there's a pretty large needle that's used to insert the filament of the sensor. That needle does not stay in, it's just the filament, so don't let that scare you. Most of the time the sensor application doesn't hurt. Sometimes my arm is a little bit tender for a couple days after the fact, but most of the time I really don't notice it's there at all. I find the adhesive on the FreeStyle Libre works really well. I use the skin tack just so I have peace of mind that it's not going to fall off. I'd say the things that make it fall off is any kind of moisture, so if you're sweating or you're swimming or wearing sunscreen, those are all things that might make the adhesive fall off a bit early. If you snag your sensor on anything, it can sometimes make it fall off early. I often bump my sensor when I walk through doorways, or it gets caught when I'm taking on and off my clothes. So these are all things that might make your sensor fall off early, so I use the skin tack just to make sure it's held on really well because I know I get it caught on things all the time. When I go to activate a new sensor, the first thing I do is scan it with my reader. Within that 60-minute warm-up period, I also scan with my phone so that both devices are paired to the same sensor. In case there's a situation where I don't want to bring both devices with me, I can pick either or instead. Usually this is a situation where maybe I'm swimming or out on a boat and I don't want to bring my phone with me just in case it gets wet or lost, because it's a lot easier to replace my reader than it is to replace my phone. The sensor removal is really easy. I just take and start peeling from one side and just peel off the whole sensor. Once the sensor is off, I use an alcohol wipe to clean the site, especially where that filament was inserted so it doesn't get infected. After I remove the sensor, there's usually a bit of adhesive that's stuck to my skin, so I'll take baby oil on a cotton ball and just use that to rub off the extra adhesive. So this is one of my past FreeStyle Libre sensors, so you can get an idea of the filament that's inserted inside. So the needle is used to insert this teeny little filament. It's actually flexible, not rigid, and it moves around with your body, so it's pretty comfortable. You can see there's like a little bit of dried blood from when I inserted this one. Usually I have a little bit of dried blood on all my sensors. I've had a few that didn't bleed. The sensor's really thin, so it doesn't stick out from your body that far. I really like the FreeStyle Libre sensor because I think it's a discreet way to check your blood sugar, so I can be in a meeting and just quickly reach over with my phone and check what it is without having to pull out all my devices to check my blood sugar using a finger prick. It is something to get used to. I think the first few weeks I had it on, it felt really weird just to have something permanently attached to my body. It's odd to look at yourself in the mirror and see this extra device, but the amount of freedom it gives me totally outweighs the fact that you have to wear it 24/7. I think it does amazing things and I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm able to do everything I want to do without the stress of having a really bad low or high blood sugar because I can see what's happening beforehand and do something about it. I really love the app on the phone because you can log all your carbs and insulin information in there and then go back and look at a couple weeks of data of trends to see how many units do you use in an average day, how many carbs do you eat in an average day. And the phone app will automatically upload to the Libre View, which is a website that your healthcare provider can access and then give you advice. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments about the FreeStyle Libre sensor, please feel free to leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.